Hello, this is the Ramblings of an Undisciplined Mind podcast for Tuesday, May 17th, 2016. As of this recording, Sierra is still missing. So, what I thought I'd talk about today is one of the movies I watched last week that I got out from the library was Fury, which is the World War II pick regarding a tank crew that stars Brad Pitt. And I did enjoy it quite a bit. It's a very good movie. It once again illuminates why war isn't very much fun. Not like we needed to be reminded of that. Well, we probably do need to be reminded of that, but it's not the only example of that, I guess I'll say. Brad Pitt did a really good job in it. You know, there are two kinds of Brad Pitt films, and I actually enjoy both kinds. You've got the films that are just kind of Brad Pitt being Brad Pitt and having fun. So I would say examples of that would be Ocean's 11, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You know, it's not like some great acting, but it's, you know, he's just kind of doing the role. It's a fun flick, and he's just enjoying himself. And, you know, those are entertaining. I don't have a problem with those. And then you got other roles where he's really trying to take on the character and not be himself. I think he did that to a certain extent in Moneyball. I'm trying to think of what other ones, but this was definitely one of those kind of movies. I'm probably going to say Fight Club was one of those movies too. So he's the commander of this tank company. They never named the tank, but I want to say it was the Pershing tanks. I'm not totally sure, but I do remember because I read a book about, you know, tank warfare, and this was the part of the war where on a direct, you know, head-to-head confrontation between American tanks and German tanks are going to win. Just because the guns that they were shooting were bigger and the armor on the American tanks was not big enough to take the beating. So literally the only way for an American tank to beat a German tank was to get around behind it, because the rear where the engine is usually was not as well armored as the front. But, you know, good luck trying to get back there to do it. And so this movie outlines that reality pretty darn well. It's taking place, where was it taking place? I want to say France, but I don't know. No, I take that back. They were working through Germany. This was probably like 44, I believe, is when it was going on. So they were starting the push to Berlin, but they were still in the outer areas of Germany. You know, I've seen a lot of war movies in my time. They all show you that war is hell, and some of them can get quite graphic. You know, I've seen Saving Private Ryan with its depiction of D-Day. And the thing I always tell myself, that no matter, you know, how well they try to portray it, it was always worse for the men that were there. I have no doubt of that. I don't feel like, because I've sat and watched any of these things, that like I know what it was like there. First of all, you only get two out of many senses, you know, hearing and seeing. You aren't getting the smells, you aren't getting the feel of, you know, a shell hitting nearby and feeling stuff, and, you know, the pain and the fear and the whatever. You know, so I've never thought that any movie has given me more than just a glimpse of what true warfare and living through that is like. And this movie was no different. It was moderately gory. The worst bit was you start off in this tank who's got Fury written on the main gun, and that was the name of the tank. And they've got a crew member that's dead in the tank. And at one point you saw his face and it was all, or his head, and it was all bloody. But for the most part, they kept the coat over his head. And then when they got back to HQ, they took the body out and gave it to the corpsmen who were disposing of bodies in some way, shape, or form. But then this, green recruit straight from the States shows up and he's like, okay, hi, I've been assigned to you. And of course, he's the way that we're going to really get to learn about the characters and who they are. He's our naive eyes and ears into the situation. And of course, the first thing they do is say, well, you're the assistant driver, I think they called it. Clean out your station. Because of course the old assistant driver was the guy that they just carted off, and he's there's blood and whatever, and that wasn't too bad. But then he looks down in this one spot, and sitting there is half the guy's face, part of the mouth, nose, and eye, and it was a surprise. They showed it to you twice just so you knew what you were looking at. And even then, I think my mental caveat is still the same. I'm sure. I know for a fact that they would have been much worse. And even if they 100% got a scene right about a particular thing, once again, I'm only experiencing it with two of my senses. So, at one point there was somebody, I don't remember who it was, that I wanted to see who is playing this particular role. And I bring up IMDb while the movie's going on, and you know how when you're searching for something, it'll give you the name of the movie, and then I'll say, okay, well, your couple main stars are this and this. And I look up, Fury, Brad Pitt, Shia LaBeouf. And I'm like, Shia LaBeouf? Because I had not seen Shia LaBeouf in this movie, but he's number 2. So I'm like, wow, he's got to be pretty major. And he was one of the guys in the tank. I had no freaking clue. He did a really good job on this movie. I'm not one of these people that kind of hates the traditional Shia LaBeouf and like Transformers and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but at the same time, it's not like I'm a big fan. But for what he was doing, he was fine. Kind of being the clueless young guy who's got aspirations, kind of thing. He was fine. But this thing, he was somebody else. And it wasn't like he was unrecognizable. I mean, he had a mustache on, and they all had kind of like days with a beard for obvious reasons. But he was doing a southern accent pretty well by my ears. Granted, I'm not southern. Somebody who's southern might think differently. But he kind of like Brad Pitt, he was that character, and apparently he was so into it. From reading the trivia, he was so into it that he didn't want to sadly for his co-workers, I mean, he lived as if he was in the tank, so he wasn't like taking showers, and he was living as if he was in this extreme situation. And he actually I think he like slipped getting in and out of the tank or something, and he broke a tooth off, and he refused to get it fixed until presumably after filming was done on this. So I just thought that was really cool to see another side of somebody that, you would think that, and I know there's a lot of Shia LaBeouf haters because they're all seeing him as the guy on Transformers, the guy on Crystal Skull, and those are kind of similar characters somewhat. And here he showed a totally different side of himself, and a lot more depth as an actor, and that was really cool. That was really cool to see. I always kind of like it when you can see a different side of somebody that you think you knew, and that's one reason why I think I enjoy the Truman Show so much, because it's Jim Carrey, but it's a different side of Jim Carrey, and I don't really like the comedy side of Jim Carrey much at all, but I love him in Truman Show. And so he did a really good job with this. As far as overreaching plot, it was just kind of a slice of life of there was a big climactic battle at the end, but it wasn't like there was an overarching plot in the sense that they were going to be the first to get into Berlin, or that they had a specific objective that they were fighting toward throughout the whole movie. They had a couple different objectives from a military standpoint throughout the movie. But it was really more about. So you had these guys. You have these guys that they've been fighting for a while. They're a really tight-knit team. They're family. One of the family has gotten killed, and now you've got this kid who is now part of the team. Maybe not part of the family, but part of the team, and he's got to learn things. He's got to learn how to do what he's got to do in the tank. He's got to learn how to kill. He's got to learn how to, the importance of, there's an enemy, you kill the enemy. There are reasons that you do that from a military standpoint. And you watch his journey from this raw recruit that can barely spell tank to somebody that is able to fight effectively in the tank, and as he gets to be more and more integrated into this team, into this family of these guys that are, living in this tin box that they use to blow other things up and can get blown up itself. So it was a really good movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit. If you like war movies, I would recommend it. I think it was very worthwhile. It got a lot of nominations for various awards. I took a brief peek. I didn't see where they got like an Academy Award. There was some award, it was like a America's Choice Award, nothing I'd ever heard of, where Shia LaBeouf got a Best Supporting Actor award for whatever award this was. The stuntmen got a lot of awards. There were a number of different awards that were for the stunt team. And there were some there were some really good things going on there. It is rated R, predominantly for graphic violence, language, and things of that nature. But as war films go, I thought it was pretty good. And it's we don't get a ton of movies that talk about the experience of the tank crews in World War II, and so that kind of makes it unique in my eyes. So I was glad to see it. It was one of the ones that I'd had on my list for a while. I remember when it came out, it wasn't something I could get to at the time, but I am very glad that I watched it. It was worth my time, most definitely, and I would happily watch it again. But I think I will let that be that for today. I will be back tomorrow. I'll be talking to you then. So, be seeing you.